going to the less. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel less a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming into February 9th, 2021, and the stock market actually went crazy today. It's not because we're reaching record highs, but Bitcoin. There was big news regarding Tesla taking a stake in Bitcoin. That's all the market was really talking about today. We have a couple factors to watch, but this might lead to the next big trade, or a lot of people looking at this as it might kind of start a Bitcoin gold rush. So I want to talk about that. But we also got earnings. We have the S&P about to hit 4,000, which is very surprising. So there's a lot of things on the table. We made a couple plays today. We did add to the long term, so I hope you guys are ready for that. But I got the keys, I got the plays, everything else we are looking at. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes for open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free 99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/thestockmarket. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watchlist come to life. And yes, if you just want to go on a fishing trip, like a virtual fishing trip where we sit around like we're fishing, but we fish for stocks, and you know, just like a group of people, like a real deep sea excursion, then yeah, we're the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything, post them below and source that info. Shout out to Chad, baby. So right off the bat, we kind of saw a rotation today, and this is what I was looking for. If you guys watched yesterday's watch list, I was looking to see a value rotation, and overall every market went up. There was an interesting set of winners and losers, but the real headline today was Bitcoin. So they announced it through a SEC filing because it was Tesla as a company, not just Bitcoin. And this is what we need to talk about, how companies are doing this. But Tesla put 10% of their free cash flow. They had about like $19 billion. They put $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. They were already holding cash. So this was their move, but now this may be the next Wall Street trade. So what I mean by this is, even after hours, people were talking about if Apple did this, and then people are saying, well, if Apple just added this feature, you could even look upwards of $200 extra per share, because it would be like pretty much Apple becoming Coinbase. And then now people are talking about, does Tesla, S&P 500 company doing this? Does it legitimize it? And then if you even see last week, you had certain companies like MicroStrategy. These guys already bought into Bitcoin, but even on the news today, these stocks shot up a lot, 34%, and this stock was already up a lot. So the point is, if you start getting people to talk about this, if this Tesla move kind of legitimizes Bitcoin for Wall Street in a way, you might see this become the next trade. And what do I mean by that? Stocks that bought Bitcoin have shot up. Lots of other stocks may just start talking about Bitcoin, or they may start trying to get into it just to get a little bit of that boost. So this was very, very important because it did give us some of the elements of a rotation. We still have earnings this week, and that's what we need to watch for. But a lot of the move happened off the gap up. We saw that news early in the morning. You come to the chart, you could see kind of how the market juggled around. It popped up, sold off a little bit, looked a little bit shaky, and then you saw most of the moves happen here at close. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another majority of the move happen there in the pre-market, especially as we near 4,000 on the S&P. So you still got to see some of the earnings effect. You got to see some of that rotation we talked about, but you did see big individual moves, either if they had earnings or related to certain industries. Even oil stocks did very, very good. We'll talk about those. So it was an overall big day, but even seeing how this week is starting, seeing Bitcoin in this type of move, I wouldn't be surprised to see Wall Street kind of trade off of this. So that is something I want to look at. And then finally, you did get stimulus talks today. There were even documents that came out. You even saw an effect on the airlines when that news started coming out. So that is still going to be important. And I think that is, again, that cherry on top for the market. And that's what we have to see if it does get passed. So there was effects for that. We want to watch that play out. There was also the minimum wage stuff. And it seems like the market kind of responded to that, but it seemed like it responded more on the specific industries that were getting stimulus as opposed to minimum wage. So that political stuff is important, but the question is, you know, will there be something surprising that markets can view again as that cherry on top? Or only way it starts to really affect the market if it surprises to the downside and no stimulus comes in or other problems emerge and it leads to something else. Otherwise, it's overall kind of looking like a win-win for the market. And that's why watching these rotations, value stocks, all that, we did make a long-term purchase. We'll go over that. All of that stuff is going to be key and was very, very important for today and the rest of the week. So there was that. And then finally for earnings, baby, shout out to the Chad. Thank you, Jesus. We even got the special TTF bulls on here, but here are the earnings. You guys busted them out. Shout out to all the people who comment. Again, if I ever miss any, post them below. I gave you guys a list, but he kind of made it a little organized here. Tomorrow, you're going to get Corsair in the morning, and then AMC, Twitter, Cisco, and Lyft after hours. And then in the morning, Coca-Cola and GM. So you even saw some of these companies move. Those will be important. We have some of these in the long term like Coca-Cola and then Uber after hours on Wednesday. Watch out for the sympathy plays and all that. But again, this week is going to be a lot more subtle than it was a few days ago. So those are going to be the main earnings. I'm going to be watching out for all those, but I do like this Bitcoin trade and I think it's going to be interesting. So I hope you're ready, but that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I have a few different plays I want to be looking at, but like I'm saying, the Bitcoin stocks will be key. I do want to see how it plays out. Really, it will depend what happens with Bitcoin because that was the response you saw with these stocks. So any company with a big stake in Bitcoin, they actually have already made this transition with their cash reserves or anything of that nature. Those are going to be some of the plays I want to look for. That includes MSTR. That is MicroStrategy. I'm pretty sure they have one of the bigger stakes there, or they've at least been announcing it the last few weeks. That's a good one. Overstock, again, we've heard about that over the years. The CEO or the old CEO used to really love it. Square got into it, and then now also Tesla. So these are the companies that are more directly involved. I want to look at some of those. It may even be good for Tesla, but again, the whole crux of this play is really dependent on the price of Bitcoin. So kind of if you're even thinking about the EV bubble, that's the way you have to look at it. It's like if the price starts going up and Bitcoin starts going crazy, again, people are going to kind of bandwagon for that effect. But if Bitcoin kind of tops out here, then these companies will actually see the reverse happen and they will start to take a hit if the price of Bitcoin becomes more volatile, or at least on the downside. So those are the first set of plays I'm going to be watching. The second set now is going to be the companies that might add Bitcoin and then already kind of have a loose correlation. And I'm cautious with that just because we've seen this happen in the past. I don't really like trading every company that has Bitcoin associated with it. So some of those companies already exist like Mara and Riot. So it's a decent way to trade it. I've always said I'd rather just buy the coins itself, but those are loosely associated. But now watch for some of these companies that start to speculate that people should get it, or it kind of makes sense for them to announce something and it really wouldn't cost them too much. And that's companies like Apple and Visa. So those are going to be the first two sets of plays, and those are going to be the main ones I'll probably be watching this week. Again, it may even take a week. Like I'm saying, this may not develop instantly. I want to see how that plays out because it's just interesting to see the moves you saw today in the precedent. And I definitely think there's going to be some level of follow-up. It just depends on how much level of hype you see. So I'm going to be watching those. And then finally, cheap earnings run-ups or some of the runners or continuations just like Uber. We went over those contracts today. If you guys remember on stream, we showed these options, and what makes it just really interesting, there's some contract where the premium hasn't shot up too much, the ones that are further out the money, but then some of them that are closer out the money have really made some run up there. So is earnings premium. It is priced in. We have to be careful on some of those moves. Again, if it moves 10% into earnings and it's pricing in 10%, it may have already made the earnings move, but that sometimes could lead to surprisers because you're even seeing it here. Closer to the money is going to have premium. Something way far out might just be too unrealistic, but they're getting priced cheaper. So I want to watch that. Again, Lyft is going to report before Uber, so it might give us a little bit more information. So that is something I'm going to be watching. As far as everything else, though, I have a few different plays that I also want to look at, and even the value play that I talked about yesterday. I even already brought it up here in this video. Those rotations are going to be important, so keep your eye out for that. But we did make a long-term purchase on both accounts. So if you don't know, we got these YouTube portfolios. Both of these combined, it's like 70-something thousand. We started this with a monthly deposit. One account, $200 a month. The other account, $2,000 a month. So one's small, one's big, but we've purchased every single one of these. And if you guys don't have your long-term alerts, I don't know what you're waiting on. It's the first link in the description, and it is free. It costs you nothing. Anytime we add a stock that we plan to hold for a really long time, I have never sold out of any of these stocks. These are all 10 years out, but you can see how we update it. We have sent out a free text message with all of those. So that's the first link in the description. Shout out to the Colt and God bless you. But the two plays that I made on the big stock account, I went for AT&T. I got 85 shares. We used the full deposit and some of the remaining cash. So I got those shares at $28.90, and you can kind of see here, and a lot of people ask why did I go with this? This was one of the main strategies we did since we made the long-term account. We talked about maximizing your dollar. And if you see here, here's all of our positions. We are literally only negative on 2 of these plays. And one of them, Big Commerce, that's growth. That's the company we bought last month, I believe, or 2 months ago. Yeah, okay, we got them in November. 3 months ago. Damn, we held it for a while. But the only other company we've been down on was AT&T. So that was our only losing positions. I like these other companies, but they're up on them. So I said, hey, we waited a little bit. I'm kind of seeing the situation with inflation, the market, and kind of how things are looking to start off this year. Wanted to deploy some of the capital, so I wanted to get a high dividend yield. We even talked about getting IRM, but that thing already rocketed up a couple weeks ago. So I said, hey, I could get a high 7% yield out of AT&T. Has a subscription model also related to 5G and all of that stuff. So I said, hey, I could justify it again. One of our worst performing positions. So I said, let's get it in there and see if we could get some of that value rotation, because AT&T, dividend aristocrat, value stock, that's why I like it. It has not moved at all in the last year, so there still could be upside, but even then it pays a high yield. But that high yield, 7% is risky, baby. 3 to 7, ask uncle. So I'll be watching out for that. And now come to the small account, same exact logic here with Arquite. So we're down on a couple of other positions, but you see I'm only down on Arquite, Rocket Mortgage, AT&T. Again, we're down on that position, but we got it on the big one. And then Walgreens, we only had $100, but this was like a year ago. And remember, after Walgreens dropped enough, we eventually bought some on the big account. We went over this today, and we got a bigger position that we're up 37% on. So you saw that on the small account. That was only $100, but same philosophy here. I went with Arquite. It was an underperformer. All of our other stocks are doing great that we've picked. So I said we'll ride the wave on some of those and start picking up some of this stuff that is a little bit undervalued, and then we'll wait. But I saved up 2 months. I didn't make a purchase on the long term last month on this small one. So that's why I was able to get $400 worth. This was 2 months of cash. So I grabbed 20 of the Arquites this morning at $21.61. So those are the only other plays today, but I am going to keep my eye out for that value rotation. Again, I want to look at all that Bitcoin stuff. So I think Tesla's going to be interesting. Apple as well. They were very interesting because they still closed negative, but they were down a lot today. So even when the NASDAQ was up like 0.5%, Apple was down about 0.5%. So that was interesting. Again, AT&T, Arquite. Watch some of the bio stocks. SRNE started shooting up. INO, even some of our leaps. Remember those May ones are like halfway leaps. They've been shooting up here and there, but it has been very volatile. But there is kind of a short squeeze going on with these biotechs. I don't know if we call it a short squeeze or just some of that small cap mania, but a lot of these have been going up. I'd be cautious, but again, you know my strategy with all these. We have a few of these plays. We play them small. We try to make them free and then hold the shares. Shares seem to be the better option with these than playing the actual option, and that is just because of the premium and some of the hype. So watch them. Watch Disney. The premiums, I'm pretty sure, are sky high right now. If you guys remember, I closed out the day of the Capitol riot. We were already up 1,000%. I believe we had those Aprils. I think they were like 180s or something. I think I sold out of them at like 700. We bought them for like 60 cents. But you can see here, all of the premiums are pretty much sky high. Some of them have bounced, but like the further out the monies are a little delayed. But today was a wild day. It's having its earnings run up. You may be able to double dip on the further out the money ones with little amounts of time, but you could even see they all started shooting up. So now this thing is juiced. It may even be a good premium sell, but you saw what happened with Netflix. There's a lot of good news with it. I mean, I really do like what they got going on there, and this was a very powerful move. You almost got that earnings run up today, so we will see what happens, but I'm going to be watching them. Going to be watching Uber. We're holding that. Watch XOM. They went up today. We even talked about this one being a dividend stock we could have picked up. I'm just not really too big of a fan of energy. However, oil did very, very good today, and a lot of these companies went up, and it was just a few weeks ago, even XOM. They're kind of some of these value stocks that have been struggling, and this is what I mean by watching those rotations. Just look where it compares to 2020 and everything else. Some of these companies could unlock a lot of value, and they even added somebody or activists to the board, so it's pretty interesting. So I'm going to be watching them. Even watch oil and energy. That was key. Again, you have GM earnings. There was even a SPAC with the electric vehicle companies. They went up, but this was a big pre-market move, and this is what I'm talking about today. This is that value rotation. This is kind of what we saw at the beginning of the year. You're seeing some of these bigger names move 5%. These are bigger Dow components, but these are some real big value names. So watch them. Watch Snapchat. I think it fell after hours, but even this close, I believe it ended up closing green, but it's dropping a little bit here, but they held up. Our plays are doing nice. Still riding that. I want to see if it goes crazy. Again, there's a lot of price targets at 75, so I want to see if it gets up there, and then what could happen if it does run up from there. But overall, you know our strategy. We're holding that. That's the long term. I like them. Watch Big Commerce. I'm just surprised it went up. Again, this is 5%. We saw what happened that second week of January. That's what I'm talking about with some of these rotations. So I want to see. Think they have the earnings coming up, but and then even Shopify's going crazy, but I want to see what happens with that again. Big Commerce has played with our emotions a lot, so I still have that one set of leaps. We did a 1 week swing trade on another set, got the profit, but we still have those first ones we bought months ago, so still holding that. Airbnb options dropped a lot this morning. morning, and then it came back up. That plays just down a little bit. Pretty decent spreads, down between like 30 and 50, depending on what the spread is. So I like it though. If it gets momentum, we'll see. I'm still holding that play, and I like them. And then finally, TrueCar. I mean, it just started moving after hours. I don't know where their earnings are. I'm excited about it. We are now above our break even finally, so I'm still holding those 1,000 shares. We'll see what happens, but that, I mean, I don't know. It's just a spiritual day. You know what I'm saying? I just had to bring that one up. So watch them. And then finally, MSTR MicroStrategy. Again, watch this Bitcoin narrative. I want to see how this plays out. But now the real interesting part, UUP and TLT. The dollar is actually, I think it's coming up a little bit after hours. It did close slightly red today, but the interesting part is, I said it on the weekend video, watch Bitcoin is kind of an inflation metric. With Bitcoin shooting up 10-15% today, that kind of stopped the dollar from increasing because a lot of people were expecting the dollar to increase today based on some of the unemployment comments by Yellen and all of that. But now factor this into TLT. TLT went up. So this is what I kind of said. TLT finally went up. And remember, the last few days it's been going down. That means rates have been going high. But what's also been happening, the dollar was going high. So the fact that TLT went up and then the dollar didn't go up today, it was kind of a balancing act because the dollar should have been going down when TLT was going down. So it kind of gives them an opportunity to meet up today. But I do think some of that dollar situation got a little clouded today because of what we saw with Bitcoin. And if it didn't, then that would actually take some time. And I want to see how that plays out. Again, Bitcoin is still relatively small compared to everything else. That's why it's a very interesting metric to look at, but definitely got some global and currency and value factors at hand. So I hope you're ready. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're hydrated, healthy, ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining, baby. I need to know, can you kill the lion without killing the lamb? But the code loves you. I love you. I'm gonna see you in the morning. Let's go.